The information war is a dirty and dangerous beast. Everybody's trying to convince you one thing is true or the other, and we get a lot of fake news in the media. So it's hard to know what is true sometimes because, but yes, you're going to have people on the left and the right. They're going to try and push that narrative. So I can say one thing before we get into the story, and I don't want to bury the lead. Let's just say it. Police are doubling down on claims that some of the protesters in Portland were throwing quick-read, and we have a police report to actually look at. So I want to make sure that's clear so I don't bury the lead. But I do want to stress, I often see this with me even, people trying to tweet out that I'm even more liberal than I really am to prove a point about liberals being thrown under the bus. They'll conflate my positions for the benefit of political ideology. So I've said recently, I'm pro-public healthcare, meaning expanding Medicaid, creating a public option, eventually maybe getting to universal healthcare. And they immediately choose to say Tim Pool is pro-universal healthcare. And I'm not helping the conversation, but I know why they do it. Because they want to be look, the left is targeting even liberals. I get it. It's an information war, okay? Here's the thing. In Portland, the police tweeted they had reason to believe there was concrete in the milkshakes being thrown. We now see all of these left-wing publications saying false rumors, conspiracy theories, and it's dude, when government officials and law enforcement put it out there, you can question it, but conspiracy theory, seriously, it's official statement at that point. So we have this story from the Daily Mail that I want to go through. Police doubled down on claims some protesters may have thrown milkshakes filled with concrete when Antifa demonstrators clashed with right-wing campaigners in Portland. We have, they say, Lieutenant Richard A. Stainbrook said he recognized Quikrete on a woman at a Portland rally and on the ground, said it smelled like Quikrete, it felt like Quikrete, it looked like Quikrete. Does that mean every single milkshake thrown was concrete? No. But I'll tell you this, if you only get your news from HuffPo or BuzzFeed or Verge or whatever, you're probably going to hear about conspiracy fake news, and they're trying to pass this off on Jack Posobiec. So if you're not familiar with who he is, high-profile Trump supporter, host for One American News. And what they've done is, the police tweet this out. Jack later tweets a photo saying, was this it? They then flip the narrative and say, aha, look, Jack tweets this, and then the police said it, to try and make it seem like it was fake news. We now have the police report, so let's dig into it. Before we get started, make sure you head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a PayPal option, a crypto option, a physical address, but as you know, the best thing you can do, share this video because YouTube has deranked independent commentary, so I rely on you and word of mouth to help grow the channel and spread the word. If you like the content, I ask you share it. Otherwise, we'll get into the news. The story says, Portland police have said one of their lieutenants firmly believed that some milkshakes being thrown at protesters during a rally were filled with concrete. Lieutenant Richard A. Stainbrook wrote a report containing the claims about the June 29th protests in Portland, Oregon, 2 days after they occurred, reports the Oregonian. During the weekend rally, group Popular Mobilization are said to have organized a milkshake party aiming to be a counter-protest against the right-wing Proud Boys. The police force tweeted, there had been reports of individuals throwing milkshakes with a substance mixed in that was similar to a quick-drying cement on that day. Now, I do want to stress, for those that are familiar, this is where Andy Ngo was attacked. Very, very high-profile incident. It's even been named in Senate resolutions now. There's a resolution calling for Antifa to be dubbed domestic terrorists, and they actually reference the attack on Andy Ngo. You can see there on the screen. For those of you who can't, it's just him scuffed up. He's bleeding. He's got, his bruise and scrapes and lesions covered in milkshake. Now, Andy Ngo later said, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly certain, he does not believe what he was hit with had any concrete in it. Fair point. But of course, you now have people on the left saying, aha, it was fake news. No, we have the report. It's a police statement. Take it seriously. It doesn't mean it was true. It doesn't mean it's a conspiracy. It just means a police officer saw it, firmly believed it, reported it, and it's appropriate to act on that. So if the police think it's true, trust them if you want or not, whatever. They say, Portland police did not specify in the original tweet or in the report later released which group at the demonstrations allegedly threw the milkshakes. Death threats were made against Popular Mobilization, who are also known as Pop Mob, after the tweet was posted. They claimed that the only ingredients in the drinks were coconut ice cream, cashew milk, and rainbow sprinkles. In his report, look, it's probably true, but all it takes is one or two people to spike a drink with Quikrete and throw it at somebody. And one of the things the left, man, it's all about just manipulating information. claiming that sugar stops concrete from setting, therefore it's fake news. And people eat this stuff up and just believe it. No one was claiming they were concerned about an exothermic drying reaction. The concern is that wet concrete is alkaline. Whether or not it's got sugar in it can burn you. It's a chemical burn. Let's read on. They say, in his report, Lieutenant Stainbrook explained how he had been approached by a woman whose head and shoulders were covered with a gray-colored substance. He wrote that I have worked with concrete periodically and specifically Quikrete, which is pre-mixed concrete specifically many times. The substance on the female smelled like Quikrete. I also noticed as the substance was drying, it was turning into a chalky consistency, which from my experience is consistent with drying concrete. So check this out. Let's read his report. He says, on July 29th, I was working in full uniform and assigned as the commander of 2nd Platoon for, I believe it says RRT. I was at the intersection of S.W. Morrison and 6th Avenue. At this time, we had an incident where a subject threw the substance contained in a cup known as a quote milkshake at two male standing on the corner. I assigned Officer Kennedy and her partner to take a report from the two victims. As Officer Kennedy was taking the report, I had an unknown female walk up to me and say, "Those things are filled with Quikrete." I looked at the female and she was covered about her head and shoulders with a gray-colored substance that was starting to dry. I have worked with concrete periodically and specifically Quikrete, which is premixed concrete, specifically many times. The substance on the female smelled like Quikrete. I also noticed as the substance was drying, it was turning into a chalky consistency, which from my experience is consistent with drying concrete. The female walked away from me before I could direct to an officer so a report could be taken. I also noticed some of the substance on the ground. The substance on the ground was also drying quickly and turning to a chalky consistency. I firmly believe these milkshakes that were being thrown, he puts in quotes, thrown around at and onto people contained some form of concrete. For situational awareness purposes, I broadcast over my radio the milkshakes being thrown around contained Quikrete. While we're in the same area, I think it's a typo, I observed several people who had this substance thrown on them. So the important distinction, for one, police officer thought it was real, doesn't mean it is. It's probably true that, or I shouldn't say it's probably true, but it's possible it was just one or two of these, quote, milkshakes. So the real issue we have here is an official statement by the police. They witnessed it. Do we want to act like Antifa is going around lobbing concrete at people? Not necessarily, but we do have reason to believe it may have been true. Again, in the information wars, they're going to lie, cheat, and steal. The story goes on to say conservative writer Andy No, an editor at the online publication Quillette, was also attacked at the June rally. Video from the day shows him being punched, kicked, and covered in milkshake by members of the Antifa movement. I don't know if movement is the right way to put it. The writer tweeted afterwards that he was bleeding and had been robbed of his camera equipment and was heading to the hosptal. He said, attacked by Antifa, bleeding. We know all this, so I'm not going to rehash it. We'll just go down to the conclusion. At least 3 demonstrators from Antifa were arrested during the event, and other people were hurt too. People had their head gashed open. It is thought at least 3 groups had planned rallies or demonstrations at different sites in the city. The fights occurred when participants of the opposing groups met, according to the Oregonian, Oregon Live. The protests came a day after white supremacist James Field was sentenced to life in prison. I don't know why that's relevant. I don't believe it is. But I want to stress a couple things. I don't believe there's been law enforcement action against Pop Mob. There probably should be. But admittedly, it is complicated. Here's the thing. Pop Mob organized a milkshake party at a time where we knew milkshakes were being used specifically to throw at people for political violence. Is it the most extreme violence I've ever seen? Of course not. It's milkshakes. We get it. It still is violence. It still is a crime. Why hasn't any action been taken? Look, in the Senate, they're saying they want to call Antifa terrorists, whatever. I don't think that's going to do anything. It might. There could be more investigations. But the question is, what's being done in Portland? And why is the answer nothing? Maybe there's something happening behind the scenes, but nothing gets done. And I gotta say, it's rather frustrating. I'm sure you guys, everybody watching, feels similarly, that we see this stuff happen all the time and nothing ever gets done about it. So why would anyone stop? After this, it was the same day we see Shaun King encourage acts of terror. Then a couple weeks later, we see a guy actually take this out in Tacoma, Washington, attacking an ICE facility, and they champion it. When is anything gonna be done about this? I ask you. I just don't see it. And that's why I do believe we can expect escalation. If people are allowed to do this stuff with impunity, why would they stop? If they're praised by the media, why would they stop? If police think they're throwing concrete and then you get far left media running defense for them, why would anyone stop? They're not gonna. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Stick around. A couple more segments coming up in just a few minutes, and I will see you all shortly.